Welcome back, guys. Next video we're going to jump right back into it and continue on with the brackets. The next thing we need to do is the brackets. So the brackets are found on the same card as your 8 truck rims, and it's these guys right here that look kind of horseshoe looking with a little dot on them. So use your snips to get those off. And same thing, let's just knock the support off open real quickly. All right, so this step is going to require us to go ahead and get our next custom jig ready. And it's going to be put together the exact same way that the first one was. And for that one, you're going to take from your styrene sheet, you're going to take this guy here that's got the long tail on it and 2 round pieces in a front little tongue area. I'm going to knock these center parts out and the center dot. You should be left with this. All right, so this is our next custom jig. This is going to serve a couple of purposes. One of them is to line up the brackets, and the next one is to line up the small wheels when we're done painting it. So you're going to need this larger drum area with the peg on the top. Give that a twist or cut it off with your snips. Knock all the support out. Drag it across your thing if you want. All right, and what we are going to be doing is the same thing that we did on the other one, and that this peg is going to snap down into this center hole. And so if you pushing and it's not wanting to go, take your little X-Acto knife like we did before, just kind of wall out that hole just a tiny bit until you want it to snap down in there, but you don't want it to crack or split the plastic. And again, if you want to take your X-Acto knife and kind of help push it down over that groove, totally fine. All we're looking for is a snug fit where it's going to stay on there. Okay? All right. That's what we want right there. Okay, so what we're going to do is, you'll notice this one is the same diameter as the large holes with where the lasers go, where the truck rims go. All right, so what we're going to do is place this in the hole, and then we're going to rotate this until it's straight up and down, going right up to the center, right in between the 2 grooves, or the space between the 2 hatch covers. And if you look, when you pull it down and you use your thumb to kind of pull it tight with this little tongue here, the tongue should kind of go right over that smaller hole on the bottom. It should line up fairly close. And what you should be left with is a space right here on the bottom that has a bowl shape or a U shape that is the exact same size as this bracket. So what we're going to do is line this up, and we're going to put the bracket right there inside that little groove, and that's where those guys go. Okay, this is going to help tremendously later on when we start putting all the rest of the half moons and all the other circles on, all the pieces, because everything starts with this. You'll also notice that if you left your striping on, if you look very closely, you will see the tiny hole that we used as our marking guide. This piece will cover that hole just right, just perfectly, where you can't see it anymore. If you don't have this and you took it off and you sanded it, then you have no indicator of what the center line is or the equator. So you need these put on first to kind of help you know where to put the rectangles on next. Otherwise, they're going to be all over the place. Right? So I'm going to do the first one. We're going to take a look at it, and I'm gonna move on and do the rest of them. Okay, so we grab our jig, line it up. I use one finger to go all the way up to the top, line it up, use this other one to go all the way down. I'm finding kind of a happy medium on everything. If you find out that one of your pieces is, your hole is drilled just slightly offline or off center, or you feel like it's not gonna cover that hole where your thing is, it's okay, move it a little bit, rotate it. Even if this is rotated a few degrees where it's not truly up and down, it's okay, you're never gonna notice that. You really kind of wanna split that difference. This is kind of where you're gonna help cover some of your mistakes by counteracting any previous alignment issues. So I'm gonna put a tiny dot right above the stripe, not on the stripe. Right above the stripe is gonna be the center of the bracket. Okay, if you don't have your stripe, you're gonna put it right above the, there's a little part where the hole juts out a little bit. You're gonna put it right there. I'll try to overlay a picture here as well to give you a close-up look. I'm gonna put my bracket in there, line it up. It'll nest right inside that little groove, and just hold it down for a few seconds. Okay. That's what we're looking for. Just like that. Carefully remove my guide, move on to the next large hole, do the same thing again. All right, enough talking, let's get these done. All right, when you've done your first 4, you're gonna flip your ball over, and you get another set that go the opposite direction. So you're gonna do the exact same thing. All right, after you've done your 8th one, flip it back over. You've got the hatch covers on top, and you should have 8 brackets, one going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, all along the equator. Okay? All right, set this guy aside, but don't throw it away. We're gonna use it again later. The last step on this video is to apply the 8 rectangles that go along the equator. These simply center themselves up and down on the equator. If you've got the stripe still, perfect. So easy to just line them up, get them halfway, and then you're gonna do halfway from here to here. Okay? If you don't have the stripe, you sanded it, hopefully there's still a tiny bit of a tail. Otherwise, it might be easier for you to roll yours up vertically and try to eyeball it that way. But if you've got the stripe, this is the easiest way. You don't want to have too much glue because it's going to leak out everywhere. So I like to do on the corners, I'll do a dot on the corners, a dot on the outside edges. I've got 6 dots, and then I'll do one tiny dot in the center of each half that almost looks like 2 dice rolling a number 5. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8 in the middle. Okay. That seems to be the perfect amount of even coverage, so that when you push this down, it all spreads out nice and evenly, holds the whole thing down, edge to edge, corner to corner, but doesn't leak glue out. Hold it by the edge with your finger and your thumb, and you're going to place, just kind of hold it over the area that it's going to stick, and you can move it side to side, up and down, until you've kind of eyeballed it and says, yep, that's dead center of where I want that to be. And then you can kind of use your finger and thumb to rock it up and down until it's dead center over the stripe or the equator seam, or if you don't have one, you're kind of just guessing. Place it pressed down with your other thumb. Then you can got a little bit of time to move this side up and down and get that centered. and just smooth it out, press down with your thumbs, kind of roll it a little bit, work it a little bit. Just make sure that you're pressing that glue all the way around evenly. And there you go, there is your first rectangle. Do that 7 more times and we're done. Alright guys, so that is it in terms of adding parts to the remote before we start our next step of painting and priming. So there's one last thing I want to do before we do that, and that is we need to remove this little center spine from the set of 3 trapezoids. Okay, I've cut them out this way so that you can easily put them on and space them. Now we're going to take an X-Acto blade, and it cuts through these things like butter. You're just going to line it up with the innermost edge, and you're going to kind of just rock it down and press it. You'll kind of feel it. If you've got a sharp blade, you're going to feel it kind of go and just kind of cut right through and kind of snap until it touches the bottom. One thing to note is that when you do that with your blade and you touch the gray primer, it's probably going to put a tiny nick in the primer, and if we didn't do anything about that, you would have light show through that little tiny nick. Ask me how I know that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this first, and then we're going to do another coat of primer to prime all of the 3D printed parts as well as the styrene pieces, so that everything starts off the same shade of gray. That extra layer of primer is also going to cover up any nicks or scratches that you're going to make here that would have let light shine through, and it's all going to end up just perfectly fine. So if you make a little slice in your paint, Bob Ross, don't worry about it. Okay, so the technique on doing this is I like to kind of go one edge at a time. I like to butt the sharp edge of my blade up along the edge of the styrene piece, and as I rock it down, rock the blade down towards the spine of the 2 pieces, I'm going to kind of make sure that the front edge is also going to just perfectly align with the edge of the styrene piece, so that I'm not going to snip any off, but I'm also not going to leave a jagged edge. So it's just kind of a matter of going real slow, lining it up, and you kind of just push. That's all you got to do. You do the next one, push. Okay, and then when you flip it over, that way you don't have to change hands or change direction. You can do everything exactly the same way. Now you do the other side by flipping it over. Push, push, and then they'll either fall off by themselves, or you can get the tip of your blade and kind of just flake them off, and they should leave nice clean little lines. Since it's called an X-Acto blade, you can get pretty exact if you wanted to. Kind of just line it up if there's a little bit of a lip, and just push down to clean that up just perfectly. Okay, so that's what we're going to do to all 8 sets of these. Here we go. Alright guys, that should cover it for this step. We've got all the parts on that we need. The next step is to hit this with another coat of primer. So I will talk to you guys in the next video. Thanks, see you later.